In this video, we're going to install the Visual Studio Code editor on a Fedora 31 system. Now, oftentimes I like just working in simpler tools such as Vi or other simple text editors, but there's occasions where something like Visual Studio Code has more capabilities to it. So, in order to install Visual Studio Code, here I am. I'm on my Fedora 31 system. We can actually confirm that this is Fedora 31 by catting the etc Red Hat release file, and that tells me Fedora release 31. And in order to install Visual Studio Code, the first thing I need to do is I need to install a snap. To install snap, we just do a sudo dnf install snapd and enter in our super secret password here. And then that will go ahead and start the download. Now, snapd is similar to like apt or dnf or yum or some of the other package management tools out there. Basically, the idea is that it's a package management utility. You say, I need a package or a program, and then it takes care of all the dependencies, all the DLLs, all the additional programs that it might need to be included with it. Snap is a specific one that we're using particularly because that's the way that Microsoft releases the Visual Studio Code application for Linux. So this will take a couple of seconds, so we'll go ahead and speed it on until the end. Alright, so what was a minute or two for me was just a couple of seconds for you due to the power of video editing. Snap is installed. What we need to do now is we need to configure Snap for classic mode. And this is required for Visual Studio Code to work. Classic mode, excuse me. Fairly simple. Basically, we sudo ln-s /var/lib/snapd/snap to a /snap location. What that does, basically, if we do an ls / it creates a shortcut right here called snap that points to this location. If you're not familiar with what that actually means, don't worry. Just go ahead and run this command. When you do an ls /, you should see a light blue / light green, depending on your eyes, color there saying snap. Alright, so snap is now installed. However, for it to fully work, we have to configure something else. So let me clear the screen here so we can see the whole thing. What happens is Snap requires something called SELinux to be installed on your computer. SELinux, it's an additional method of security. Basically, it says like a web server process can only access files identified as being web server files. A file server process can only access files identified as file service files. So what we'll have to do is we have to actually configure it for Snap so that Snap can access Snap files. So I started off with the command se-status, and really I'm just looking through here to make sure that it's enabled and that it's in enforcing mode, and that's great. What I need to do now is I need to use sudo semodule-i and then point to a location that has the SELinux configuration. So packages snappy.pp.bz2. So what this does is it loads up this module into SELinux that specifically is configured for Snap. So this will take a couple of minutes again. When it's done, we will reboot. Alrighty, so we went ahead and we rebooted. Let's go ahead and open up another terminal here and get back into it. Get back into our configurations. We're almost done. So far we've installed Snap. We've set up SELinux. Now we can go ahead and install Visual Studio Code. For that, we use snap install -- classic And the name of the program is just simply code. You may get this kind of an error message saying, hey, this is too early for this operation, device not yet seated. What that means is just wait a couple of minutes. We just rebooted, the system is still coming up. Wait a couple of minutes and try it again. And then this download will take a couple of moments, and so we'll fast forward for you. All right, and it gave us a warning here. We probably should figure out exactly what's going on here. It's not necessarily critical. It will continue to work with that warning. Take that with a grain of salt. I'm not researching it, and I'm saying you probably don't need to, but you may. But it does say, hey, look, VSCode, Visual Studio Code, was installed, so it is now up and running on our system. Now we can go ahead and open up Visual Studio Code. We can do that by coming up here to the Activities window. Activities menu, clicking the little multiple button down here, and we'll see Visual Studio Code right there. You can also get to the, so if I click on that, that will open up, or I can come in here into the terminal and just type in the command code. Both options are fully functional and work just fine. So now that I have Visual Studio Code installed, I want to get this ready for my system. I already have a folder on my system that has lots of files that I'm working with. And so I want to open up that folder to be able to access all of those files. To do that, I come up here to the File menu and I choose Open Folder. I don't want to just open one file. I want to open a folder so I can work with all the files in it. So Open Folder, it will then open up a browser for my system here. And let's see, I want to go to Home and IT385 and then click OK. So I selected the folder and now I'm clicking OK. At this point, I can go ahead and I can see my files on the left-hand side. I can see my individual files, such as my shopping list, and I can see my folders, such as that right there with the files inside of them. If I want to edit one of these, such as my shopping list, I just double-click on it and I see it opens up on the right-hand side. If I want to edit the contents, I just type in, and I notice that my X up here turned into a little ball. And I also have an Open Editors unsaved item there. That's telling me I have unsaved content. To save it, File, Save. Or as you can see right there, I can type Control S on the keyboard. When I do that, the little ball turns back to an X, tells me everything's saved. This folder just happens to be a GitHub repository, or a Git repository, which is synchronized to GitHub. Because of that, Visual Studio Code is intelligent enough to realize, hey, you're tracking changes on this folder and you now have untracked changes. And that is this tab right here. If I hover over it, it tells me source control, and I can see the little ball there with the number 1 on it saying that there's one pending change. If I click on that, it shows me where the pending changes are. I only have one change. I could have 10 or 100, and it would show all of the files in there. Now that I've made a change, I want to commit the change locally as well as synchronize it online. So we'll start off with committing the change locally. For that, I click this little check mark right up here. Commit. And it gives me a prompt and it says, hey, there's no changes to commit. You haven't staged anything. And yes, there's a proper way to stage this. I'm not too concerned about that. But then it says, do you want me to automatically stage your existing changes and commit them? Well, yeah, I mean, ultimately that's the whole point of committing, right? As I have changes, I want to commit them. Now, there may be situations where I don't want to commit all of them, in which case you have to go the other route. I want to just commit all of them. So I could say yes, or I could say always. If I say always, then it will never prompt me for this again. If I say yes, then it will prompt me this next time. I'm going to say always. I don't want it to prompt me every single time. And I can see right now up here, there's a new text box that's asking for a message. And it says down below, please provide a commit message. Press enter to confirm or escape to exit. So this is my commit message when I'm committing a change. Updated shopping list. And enter. It went ahead and it committed the changes. Awesome. So it committed the changes locally. So I do have some version tracking on my local machine. Every once in a while throughout the day, I want to make sure that I synchronize those changes online up to GitHub so that if something happens to my computer, I still have an online resource of that. When I'm done committing the changes to synchronize, I can click this ellipse right here, or the 3 dots. When I click on that, I can then choose sync. So I choose sync here, and it says, okay, this will both push and pull any commits from origin to master. Okay. I'm actually going to say, okay, don't show this again. And because my password is stored on the system and has been committed, is stored in a text file, it doesn't prompt me for my username or password. It does ask me, hey, do you want to periodically run git fetch? Sure. And there we have it. My changes are now not only saved on my local machine, they're committed to my history for Git, as well as now published up to GitHub. When I'm done, I can close out that editor and click this guy right here to go back to the File Explorer, and I can continue working on all the various files in my system.